7, and Thursday partly cloudy with a high around 78. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or visit them off Lexington and Roseville. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting from the studios of AM950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I heard a feedback there. And airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to the Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ progressive radio news and talk show in the United States. The only radio news and talk show in the United States, for that matter, progressive or otherwise. Yeah. I am your host, John Parker. My executive producer, Jim Pounds, is in studio with me. We have got a lot to get to today, a whole variety of different topics to talk about. So first of all, in the second half of the show, we'll talk about XP Lee, who has won a special election here in Minnesota in the district that former Minnesota House Speaker Emerita Melissa Horstman served in prior to her assassination. A national MAGA organizer who helped lead the January 6th insurrection, which is why I'm flagging this for folks, is calling for America to create a penal colony and to arrest 500,000 Americans. Following up on our interview last week with Carmen Emmy, the director, on his debut feature film Plain Clothes, starring Russell Tovey and Tom Blythe, we now have our official review of the film. Stay tuned for that. But up first, Mason Deaver is the best-selling and award-winning author of I Wish You All the Best. The film adaptation hits movie theaters later this year. Their newest novel is the Build a Boyfriend Project. Because of recent breaking news coverage that we've had to cover the past couple weeks, we've had to reschedule this interview twice. So today, we're pushing the news back to be... So Mason Deaver, welcome to the Gailey Show.
I'm here. I finally made it. Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so let's start with the Build a Boyfriend Project. What can folks expect when they turn to page 1?
Oh gosh, a mess. The Build a Boyfriend Project is it's like my little love letter to sort of those mid 2000s romantic comedies. It has that sort of spin that you would expect from like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or even like The Devil Wears Prada. It's about Eli Francis, who is a journalist hopeful who is recently gotten out of a pretty long relationship, and his friends are pushing him to go on blind dates and to get out there. And when he finally agrees, he ends up going on the worst blind date of his life, and he wants to wash his hands of the situation. But when that blind date, Peter shows up to his office the next day and reveals that he's never gotten the chance to go on a date before, Eli agrees to help Peter become a better boyfriend, thus the Build a Boyfriend Project. And of course, lines start to blur as Eli writes an article about Peter's experience being queer, going up the South, being isolated. And I'll leave it there. I want people to figure out the rest of the story, but clearly it's a romance, so you can kind of see where it's gonna go.
Well, talk to me about, given the times that we're living in, writing happy love stories for the queer community and trans folks.
I just got the chance to talk about this recently on another show I did, but it's given again the current political landscape, we're really at a point where being a marginalized creator of any kind, whether it be gender identity, disability, race, or any like intersection of those identities, where like the fact that any of us are making art and like putting it out there is in and of itself an act of revolution, especially when you're writing happy stories. Because again, in the current political landscape, people seem to have a lot of issues with queer people being happy, and I don't really understand it. But for me, I never wrote the Build a Boyfriend Project to be this like grand, like, statement or anything. Like I wanted to write a love story between two characters where one of them happens to be trans. And that's something that's kind of like, it's kind of been a piece of all of my writing. I never really set out to write a trans, I guess, centric story. For me, it's always going to be about like the love story first. It's just so happens that I want to put trans characters in there because I'm trans and because I want to see trans characters get that happy ending. And it's just, again, unfortunately, we're existing in a time where that is an act of revolution in some way, shape, or form. And it breaks my heart. It really does. But it also, it feels empowering in a lot of ways, especially knowing that like people are going to these stories to find that escape and to see themselves represented in this escapism specifically. And so like, as terrible as it is, it's also very rewarding pretty often.
Well, this is where I like, because I mean, obviously we have to deal with a lot of the hard news on a daily basis, which is why I'm glad to talk to folks like you, and particularly around this type of a book, because I feel like this has gone back a while now, like with, you know, Schitt's Creek or Heartstopper, where these folks that are like, we can't have nice things. Everything has to be like, you know, terrible. And I'm like, you know, Tar was a terrible movie. So like, it doesn't all have to be about Tar. You know what I mean? Like, let's just ignore that even happened. Give me a Hallmark LGBTQ rom-com, because
Exactly.
that is more revolutionary than I really hated Tar. And I won't bring that up.
I know.
But I mean, so I like the idea that you're having the way that you're coming at this, right? Of, you know, yes, our existence is political, but we do get to have stories where we're just us existing in the world.
Mhm.
And we can have love and we can go about that. And that doesn't mean we're any less political, you know, any other time of the week and we're not in the fight, but we need stories, you know, like this. And I'm just so glad
Exactly.
that you are writing them. So there are a lot of fans of the fake dating trope. Can you unpack for us your approach in this particular novel? And when you were writing it, were there things that came up that you weren't expecting that you were going to write about?
Oh, it's really funny because like I myself struggle to call this a fake dating book. And I only say that because like within the romance genre, like we get very precious about specific tropes and how they're used. And so we like for everything to be accurate when we're describing it. But so in my head, I would say that it's more teaching how to date, even though like through the course of the book, Peter and Eli are going on these fake dates, these simulated dates, in order to sort of replicate this like perfect atmosphere for Peter to learn a lesson. And I think for me, really the thing that came out the most through writing that surprised me was my connection to Peter. For me as the writer, it's expected, I think, for me to have some form of connection to my main character, like I always have. There's always going to be a piece of me that's in each of those characters, especially when I'm, you know, writing directly in their perspective. But for Peter, he really surprised me because I really had the chance to explore something that I hadn't really gotten to before in a very specific way. And I almost got to sort of replicate my own journey when it came to discovering my queer identity and then moving from such an isolated place in the American South to like San Francisco, which is where I live now, like this queer haven, like things I've never seen before, I'll see on the street every single day. But yeah, for me it was Peter. His story of growing up without queer icons and queer heroes or queer elders even to have to like learn these important lessons from, to never really get the experience when it comes to dating as a queer person and how different that is, and having to keep so much of his life a secret when he didn't want to, and sort of having to see his friends go through even more violent outcomes. It really it echoes like my own experiences and the things that I saw both growing up as a teenager and then as a young adult, really getting the chance to finally come into my own. And so I think he surprised me the most, and I think that might be why he's one of my favorite characters.
I love the idea of learning how to date. And because that was something that I, went through. And I imagine there's a lot of folks that are like, wait a minute, for some of us, not all of us, you're suppressing who you are. So you don't even really think like, oh, I could be going on a date. And then you find yourself on dates and you're like, oh, okay, what's happening here?
Exactly.
So without giving away any spoilers, like what were themes that come up and like, this is what makes a good date?
I think it was tough because you do have Eli, who is a very blunt character, having to explain things that you wouldn't really think need to be explained, like in a through the especially through the first half. So this isn't really much of a spoiler, but in the first half, we see multiple examples of Peter being a workaholic and not really knowing how to set his phone down because he's so afraid of like disappointing the people that he works for, and he's so worried about like not being available to people who need him 24/7 that like it actively ruins his date with Eli, both the official first blind date and the unofficial redo date. And so it was really funny having to sit in Eli's perspective and having to figure out a way to just explain it is inappropriate for you to be on your cell phone during a date. And you're like, how does someone not know that? But when it comes to someone like Peter, I was always really conscious of that headspace again, because it's something that I share. It's like these social cues that you can't really pick up on, and it's it's very funny basing so much of Peter off of myself, and then to see reviews call him very clearly autistic coded, and I was like, oh, I learned something new about myself, I think there. But I think
Wow.
it's a free diagnosis. I mean, I didn't have to pay for the test or anything.
Well, hang on
But
a
no,
second.
I think
I have to fit in a break here. So we're gonna have more with Mason when we come back, talking about their new novel that is out now, the Build a Boyfriend Project. Before we go, I want to share about our travel partner, Travel Marquette, because Marquette County, Michigan, and Marquette, the city, is a very special place for me. And for the past decade, I have been going to Marquette twice a year. And there's a reason why I do that, because I don't have to worry about being queer in Marquette County. It is a beautiful university town, a blue city, a blue county with a very active pride organization in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It has all the things that I need for a long weekend getaway: queer-owned restaurants, excellent bookstores, relaxing hiking, and time out in nature to refill my cup. If that is something that you would like to do along with me, I'll be there in mid-October. You can visit travelmarquette.com to start your journey. That's travelmarquette.com. More with Mason Deaver when we come back. You're listening to The Gaily Show.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota, providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblat. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Your time is precious. Why are you still mowing your own lawn? I'm Alex Knorr, a young, hardworking entrepreneur serving the Southwest Metro with affordable lawn care. At Buzzcut Mowing, I offer weekly mowing, leaf cleanups, aeration, dethatching, tree trimming, and mulch installation. I work hard so you can relax and enjoy time with family and friends. Call today and I'll handle the rest. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com. That's buzzcutmowingmn.com.
The Brave New Workshop is a Minneapolis tradition and the nation's longest-running comedy theater, finding ways to make people laugh about things that should make them cry for over 65 years. And who doesn't need a good laugh right now? Seriously, who doesn't need a laugh? Come see their fall show, Hippocalypse Now, a hilarious look at a world where what people say and what people do are completely unrelated. Playing now through November 1st at the Dudley Riggs Theater in Minneapolis. Tickets available at hennepinarts.org. That's hennepinarts.org.
Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. My executive producer, Jim Pounds, is here in the studio with me. We are here with the author of the Build a Boyfriend Project, Mason Deaver. That novel is out now. Plus, there is the film adaptation of Mason's book, I Wish You All the Best, which is coming to theaters this November. I'm going to ask a few questions about that. But Mason, in the break, I was thinking about what you were talking about, cell phones on dates and being a workaholic and putting them down. And I feel like that maybe isn't even just about like workaholics. I feel like we are really connected. Like it's becoming part of our hands.
Yeah.
And it is hard to put them down.
It is. I have to make concentrated efforts to leave my phone in the other room when I'm working or when I just know that I don't need to be looking at it when I'm watching a movie or something. That thing is in my room and I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
Does the same rule apply to laptops? Because I've been criticized for looking at my laptop while we're watching a movie.
Yes. Just say yes.
I can't even think about looking at my laptop while watching a movie. Oh my gosh.
I'm ashamed now that I brought it up.
Yeah. Jim's work. He takes it with him everywhere that he goes.
You gotta get work done. Come on.
You gotta get your work.
We're working girls. Let's go.
That's right.
What is another theme that came up for you while you were writing the book about learning how to date and do it well?
Oh, I think another thing that I really wanted to explore was the idea of not necessarily giving like a romance a second chance, but giving love a second chance. Throughout a lot of the book, Eli is so terrified of moving on from his ex that like he denies his feelings for Peter. Spoiler alert. It's a romance novel. But he spends so much of the book denying his feelings for Peter because he doesn't think that he it could possibly fall in love again. Like he says towards the beginning of the book, he had his great love, he lost it, he's not expecting to find another one. And another piece of that came from me just wanting to explore like what it looks like whenever such a long relationship, like Eli and his ex, they dated, I believe, for 7 years is what I say in the book, don't quote me on that. But Eli and Keith dated for several years, and so when you're together with someone for that long, you kind of expect it to be end game. You expect it to be like, this is it, this is my person who I found, and
Right.
the hard part's over. And then to have all that come crashing down, Eli is very jaded, especially at the beginning of the book. And so a lot of the lesson comes from letting those walls back down, especially once you put them back up, when it is a lot tougher to tear them down. And sort of opening yourself up to like giving not just love, but like all kinds of opportunities another chance, but especially love, giving it that second shot.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you say that. Given the state of the world that we're in right now, but I think particularly for folks who may be living in rural, parts of the country, like here in Minnesota, like in the Twin Cities, is a radically different way of dating, and how you allow yourself to be in those dates. I love the way that you put it there about, giving your chance for love as differentiating that from romance. But I think there's so many folks who may be giving up on that idea in rural parts of the country when you're just being really surrounded right now by so much vitriol. I really appreciate how you're approaching this and the intentionality of it. And also just saying, joy is political, but we need it. We need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's
especially now.
Especially now. We are here with author and screenwriter Mason Deaver, whose new book, The Build a Boyfriend Project, is out now, but also has a new film coming out that is an adaptation of your book, I Wish You All the Best. It's coming to theaters this November. Tell us about it.
I mean, it's finally happening. I told myself that I wouldn't believe it was ever actually happening until I was like sitting down to watch it in a theater somewhere, because it's I mean, it's been a wacky journey. Tommy and I have been talking about it since 2019, since about 3 weeks after the book came out. We met up in New York. We just had a quick coffee conversation, and here we are. I mean, it's it's really crazy to think about. It's taken so long, and yet it's passed in like the blink of an eye. It's wild.
And so Tommy is Tommy Dorfman, who folks maybe know from the variety of acting credits. But you and Tommy, Tommy directs, and you both wrote the screenplay together.
Well, she wrote the screenplay. I just get book by. But yeah, she handled the script writing. But she was very she was very collaborative in.
You have an IMDb credit, by the way.
Let me contact the guild. I need insurance.
That's where I got my fact from, is that you're listed as the writer on there. So
I need to email them about that. But yeah, she was always so open to sharing parts of the process that I realistically could be involved on. So like, she shared the script at almost every stage and would ask for my input. Largely the casting was out of my control, but when it came down to Ben, she was really struggling between two choices that she loved, and she came to me to ask for my opinion, and she sent both of the like solo audition tapes, as well as both actors did chemistry reads with Miles Gutierrez Riley, who plays Nathan in the movie. And I was like, Corey's the one. Like, he knocked it out of the park, and he kills that movie. It's amazing. I love watching him.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And also there is Cole Sprouse of Riverdale.
Yes.
Riverdale fan.
For me, it was That's Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. That's Honey, You Missed Auburn big time for me. I don't know anything about Riverdale.
Oh, okay. Well, you may enjoy Riverdale.
I've heard it's wacky.
It is campy. It is very, very campy. So the film is coming out in theaters, I believe, the first weekend in November. So folks, stay tuned here. We will let you know the theaters that it's in both Minneapolis and Chicago, for our listeners in both cities, so that you can get to the theaters right away, because opening weekend is what counts the most these days. And Mason, how can folks stay in contact with you about upcoming books?
I'm pretty much only on Instagram and Threads is what it's called, I believe. But it's just Mason_Deaver on both of those. And yeah, if you want updates from me, that's where you're going to get them.
Perfect. I'm so glad we finally made this happen.
Yes.
Mason, thank you for your time today. And please, whenever you've got your new book coming out, you have our email now. Contact us. We'll get you back on the show.
Of course. Oh my gosh. I'd love that. Thank you both. This was so much
Have a
fun.
good day. Yes. And folks, stay tuned. We've got a lot coming up, including our review of the upcoming film Plainclothes. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 Radio and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Tom Hartman, and you can catch me every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's smart radio for smart people.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. It's the start of our favorite season in Minnesota, football season. With all the hype and action this season brings, we know things can get loud and messy quick. Before you invite your friends and family over to watch the big game, you better call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to clean up all of those fumble moments in your home. And as always, you can score a guaranteed touchdown with great savings from Zero Res this month. Carpet, tile, rugs, upholstery, every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. And this month you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129, plus $75 off an air duct cleaning. And don't forget about your dryer vent, too. Having Zero Res over will be a big victory for your home. You'll always come away a winner, even if the guys in the purple or the maroon don't. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 86. Tonight, showers and storms with a low around 67. And Thursday, partly cloudy with a high around 78. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or visit them off Lexington and Roseville. Mavericks Real Roast Beef. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Coming to you from the studios of AM 950, KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. He's Jim Pounds, my executive producer. It is 33 minutes after the hour. We briefly got to mention this, like flying out the door on the show yesterday because we were had so many things going on. But I wanted to give a shout out to Ghost Box Radio, which airs here on AM 950 at 10 p.m. Central. There was a new listing that came out, and Ghost Box Radio made the top 15 in the Ghost Hunter podcast category. And the organizer of this, it's an industry listing that is for PR professionals and marketing folks to know where should you be placing, your guests or your advertisers. And so it is a primo resource that is being out there for the industry. And so for Ghostbox Radio to be in that top 15 is really special. And so we congratulate Greg Bauckham, the host, and you should be tuning in at 10 p.m. Central Monday through Friday And then you can catch up on all the episodes everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube, I believe as well.
I'm sure.
All right. A couple of hard news things that we want to get to here before we get to our review of Plainclothes. So yesterday was a special election in Minnesota. On Tuesday, XP Lee won the House seat that was previously occupied by Representative Melissa Hortman until her assassination in June. So this brings the Minnesota House back to a 67-67 tie, which returns to a power-sharing agreement that Representative Hortman herself had organized with the Minnesota Republicans, Minnesota MAGA party, really.
Ugh.
And so it's very XP Lee, Representative Lee now, I should say, has committed to very much continuing on the tradition and the themes of Representative Hortman's tenure in the particular district. And so we look forward to seeing what Representative Lee does in the upcoming session. For folks who don't know, Minnesota does not have a year-round long legislature. They are only in session from January through to mid-May. There is going to be, however, a special session, most likely towards the end of the year, related to gun violence in Minnesota. So we're going to stay tuned to see what happens there in that special election, given all of the gun violence that has been happening across the country, not to mention 2 shootings here in Minnesota. There is another story that is very concerning for me, so I wanted to flag it for folks because there is a lot of really violent, angry rhetoric coming from MAGA right now towards the trans community, towards the left, which is somehow they're defining as this weird amorphous everything.
Right.
Is, you know, so they're going to be going after a lot of different left organizations, media, or voting organizations. I mean, it's gonna be ugly. But I'm also trying to keep tabs on a variety of people, and so when I saw this particular person coming across, I get nervous about that. So over the weekend, Ali Alexander called for the United States to create a penal colony and to arrest 500,000 Americans. And the reason why I'm watching this person in particular is that he was the national organizer of the Stop the Steal movement that resulted in the January 6th insurrection and riots. During the actual events on January 6th, there posted a video saying, "I don't disavow this. I do not denounce this." Said that while it was happening. He would later reveal that he was one of the people that got white nationalist groups like the Proud Boys to join and quote unquote work security for the crowd. And ultimately, he wasn't arrested, though he did have to testify to grand juries, but he wasn't arrested. And after the pardons this January, though, for all the people who stormed the Capitol and ransacked it, he said, quote, "I would storm the Capitol again for Donald Trump. I would start a militia for Donald Trump," end quote. So this past weekend on a live stream on Telegram, Ali Alexander said, quote, he wants Trump, quote, "to use state power to tell civil libertarians to shut up. 500,000 people need to be arrested, tried, and possibly killed," end quote. He went on to say during this live stream, quote, "My attention is going to be on trying to get Kash Patel fired, trying to get Donald Trump off his fat bleep to avenge his friend, trying to use state power to tell civil libertarians to shut up while we excise all of Antifa from our country. I think 500,000 people need to be arrested, tried, and killed, possibly killed, if they're convicted for treason or something like that. I think America needs a penal colony. I do not want to coexist with these people," end quote. That was Ali Alexander, the lead organizer of the Stop the Steal movement in 2020.
Can we just acknowledge that Joe Biden did win the election?
Yes.
In 2020.
Joe Biden
Since
did
the people
win
in
the election.
Oklahoma don't know that.
Right Wing Watch has the full story on this, and I truly recommend checking it out. They are getting more and more violent in their calls.
Yes.
And when I start to see people who have already organized violence I start to get worried and then begin to wonder who is going to respond to this. I want to remind folks of the story we talked about yesterday. 9 attorney generals from across the U.S. are coming together, released a joint video talking about how their various offices in those states are going to be protecting, and they're committed to protecting trans kids in schools. So that was one, version of that. But we're, when we see folks like Third Way, there's now another Democratic think tank, something called the Searchlight Institute, which is saying that the Democratic Party basically needs to give up and not talk about LGBTQ issues anymore. It's a very dangerous situation where you have a lot of people within the Democratic Party, and this is headed by someone who used to work for Senator Harry Reid, advising Democratic Party leaders to basically sideline the queer community. You have folks like Third Way putting out memos saying that, it turns off voters to say LGBTQIA. So it is a very precarious time where you have one party and movement who have orchestrated violence and disinformation on a national level, saying they're going to do mass arrests, eradicate people. And you have another party that is basically being told by key people within it, don't talk about LGBTQ people anymore.
Right. But they only represent 30% of the people who voted. So let's always keep that in mind. They have all the
What is this fact?
Microphone. 30% of the people who voted for him, right? 30% of the people in the country. The people that voted for him represent.
He got 49% of the vote.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. 30% of the U.S. adults voted for him. So that's all we know that he represents. Not a majority, and we have all coexisted.
This is
for
the problem that
years.
I have here is that you cannot have a movement who's going to force the issue about talking about trans people. They're going to force the issue about talking about queer people. And you cannot have leaders in the opposite party saying, don't talk about this.
Of course not.
They're going to force the conversation, and they're forcing the conversation very violently in their rhetoric. And the people who have already organized storming the Capitol are now saying they're going to organize to get Donald Trump to do what they want.
Yeah.
You cannot have people within the Democratic Party saying, let's not talk about LGBTQ people anymore. We're going to lose votes over this.
Right.
It's just not, it is not a winning strategy.
No.
Because they're going to force the conversation. And if you've got nothing to say about it, you're alienating LGBTQ voters, 86% of whom voted for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Right. Well, and they know we don't have an alternative. To be a gay person.
There is an alternative. People don't come and vote. And it would be disastrous if the LGBT community doesn't come and vote. And if they start turning us off, if you've got people like Gavin Newsom who are going out of their way to drop the LGBTQ community from his coalition, somehow trying to grab MAGA folks instead, this is not going to work.
No, I agree.
It is a bad strategy.
Yep. Well, and we all have to make sure we're saying that to our friends and relatives and people that we know. People need to come out. People need to be very vocally pro-gay if you are gay. Stop being cowards. And I know I'm worried about people's employment too. I know there's
not if you're feeling
inheritance, but
squeamish right now and going, oh, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't know how to talk about it. You're going to have to learn how to talk about it.
Yep.
Because they're going to force the issue here.
That's right.
And they're being very violent about it.
That's right.
And, listening to this show is one way that you can do that. And I know, see that even right now I'm up in my feelings and I'm feeling very, self-righteous about it. But these are lives on the line here. And you saying that I don't want to talk about it or we shouldn't talk about it because we're going to be turning off voters isn't going to work. Right. And you may not like hearing that. But this is the situation that we're in right now. All right, now in a transition that's just breakneck, we're going to go. A week ago, we got to talk to director Carmen Emmy about his debut film, Plain Clothes, which is going to be opening in theaters this weekend. It's actually at the Chicago International Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So it's playing on Friday, I believe. So if you're in Chicago and there are still tickets available, please check that out because we've screened it. We're going to tell you about it right now. It's going to open at the Music Box in Chicago on October 3rd. Minneapolis, St. Paul, stay tuned. We're still trying to see where it's going to be playing when it opens in Minneapolis and Minnesota, rather, in October. But it is directed and written by Carmen Emmy, stars Russell Tovey and Tom Blythe. The logline, the synopsis of it is that a promising undercover agent assigned to lure and arrest gay men defies professional orders when he falls in love with a target. So we did interview Carmen on September 10th, so last week. Be sure to check out that conversation everywhere you stream your podcasts, or on our websites, am950radio.com or heartlandsignal.com, or on our YouTube channel. As always, with our film reviews, we start with 4 key questions. Was there any animal violence in the movie? No, there was not. Is there an HIV storyline in the movie? No, there is not. Is there anti-LGBTQ violence? So this film is about undercover police operations in the 1990s to arrest gay men, and is based on actual history, but I will say there aren't any depictions of violence within the movie itself. Is there a happy ending? I'm not going to say yes or no, but I will say I was satisfied at the ending. We always start with these 4 questions for folks who are just hearing a film review from us, because these are things that come up with the film audiences, and we like to let folks know before they go in to these key areas. Jim, your thoughts, your review on Plainclothes.
I made some notes of the things that I really admired about it. I have some other maybe questions, but I thought the film did a great job of establishing a place and time. You know, it takes place in Syracuse, and it's the 90s. And so whether it's the setting, or whether it's the music, or whether it's the costumes, it really was very evocative of the 90s, I thought. And I thought they did a great job with that. I do think Tom Blythe and Russell Tovey and Amy Forsyth were the 3 performances that I admired the most. I admired other people, but those 3 stood out for me. There's some talk about the fact that the director uses a lot of handheld and then quick cuts but this is why it worked for me, and some people have been critical of it. This is a young man and how many of us have been in this situation where you're like, I shouldn't even be here. What am I doing? You know, when you realize you have a different identity.
You're talking about our main character.
Our main character, and he's entirely doing a performance for his job that's, tearing at his heart. And you're in this in-between place and constantly being bombarded by the past, or by memories, or own things you've said, or hypocrisies you've exhibited. It's a way of exhibiting a tortured psyche, I think. And I could relate to it. It might be jarring and it might be a lot, but when you're closeted, from the minute you leave, sometimes from the minute you get up out of your bed, you're performing, you're telling a lie of a kind. And I thought that came across really well. He was almost never himself, certainly never in front of any other people, at least at the beginning, and doing something that he even knew was reprehensible ultimately. So I liked that technique. I thought it did the best way I could to describe a sort of tortured mind, and a sort of, or self-doubt, or trying to think, how do I get through this family situation? So I liked all of those qualities.
We're going to have more of our review of Plainclothes when we come back after this very quick break. You are listening to The Gailey Show. Follow us on Blue Sky for more progressive news and analysis. We're at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
This is no bedtime story. It's Treasure Island, a thrilling stage adventure packed with sword fights, secrets, and the lure of buried gold. Join young Jim Hawkins and the infamous Long John Silver as they set sail on a journey where trust is tested and danger lurks behind every wave. Live on stage at Children's Theatre Company, September 9th through October 19th. Tickets at childrenstheatre.org.
Hey friends, this is John Parker from The Gailey Show. When I travel, I want to go somewhere where I can unwind, get back to nature, like with waterfalls and hiking, enjoy some classic downtown shopping with good restaurants, and also just be myself as a queer person without worries. That's why twice a year for the past 10 years, I've been visiting Michigan's Marquette County. This fall, join me and head up to the Fresh Coast. Visit travelmarquette.com to start your journey.
So an atheist, a Christian, and a Buddhist walk into a church. There's no punchline. That's just what happens every Sunday at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. Join us for Sundays Reimagined or live stream at firstunitarian.org. Looking for community without doctrine? Questions without judgment? Think outside the pew. Join us for Sundays Reimagined at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis or live stream at firstunitarian.org.
Get ready for the music event of the season. Powderhorn Porch Fest returns Saturday, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. for another legendary evening of 13 epic performances across 3 uniquely Powderhorn Porch stages featuring genres from hip-hop, R&B, surf punk, Latin folk, and more. Powderhorn Porch Fest spans 2 blocks on 17th Avenue South between 32nd and 34th Street. KRSM will be spinning beats with the diverse sounds of the South Side all night long. Treat yourself to Minneapolis' favorite food trucks, then grab a refreshing cold drink at the Beer Garden. The festival's family-friendly by day with activities for kids and an unforgettable celebration for adults after dark. Best of all, Powderhorn Porch Fest is free to attend with proceeds supporting the community programs of the Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association. Don't miss out on this one-of-a-kind music and community celebration. Powderhorn Porch Fest, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. Details at ppna.org/porchfest.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. We are giving you our official review of Plain Clothes, which opens at the Chicago Film Festival on Friday. If you're Chicago, check out and get your tickets there. It opens at the Music Box on October 3rd in Chicago, Twin Cities. Stay tuned. We will find out release dates here for Minnesota. Jim, you were giving your part of your review before the break. I will say that a couple of things. You do get a bit of the history of this. So you do watch the cops and how they are setting up the entrapment, if you will. So you see the technique of, how the undercover cop is supposed to go into the bathroom, where, don't go into a stall, don't say anything, how you're supposed to sort of use your eyes to get them to do, what you want them to do. You do see an old video in black and white, a training video of how they go about doing it. You see how they're going to set up a camera and how the camera shots need to be set up. So it is very, for folks who thought, well, this is ancient history, this film is showing you what it was like in the 90s. And then this was based off of reporting in the aughts that Carmen had read when he was going through his own coming out journey. So I feel like the film handled that very well, even down to like the, hand gestures that the undercover cop is supposed to give to the other cops who then go and make the arrest, right? So that is very interesting to see there. I also liked the use of the high 8 video. I feel like that helped to set the tone for being in the 90s. I also felt like for the characters, it had a little bit of a claustrophobia because the aspect ratio is different than a cinematic, ratio. So I feel like when you went to those, it kind of gave you that sense of like, oh, here I am in this area. Fun fact that we learned last week with Carmen, the footage of the boy in the football helmet, which is supposed to be Lucas as our main character as a kid, is actually Carmen's brother in there. So that's a sort of a fun fact for folks to know about that we learned in our conversation with Emmy. I liked the audio design as well for the movie. There are lots of clicks and feedback and static noises and like electrical noises that happen when there are particular moments when our main character Lucas is feeling stressed. And I feel like for me, it's like a turning of the screw as you go along in the movie. And I felt that was really important to have that there. It really gives you another way of feeling what Lucas's mental state is. I think it absolutely deserved the acting award that it got from Sundance Film Festival earlier this year. The work that Russell Tovey and Tom Blythe are able to do just with their eyes. And I love that Carmen does a great job of zeroing in. I mean, there are some very intimate shots of eyeballs here. And that could be very in the wrong hands for actors. That could go very wrong.
Yes.
And I felt like Tom and Russell really made the most of that in how they're, the gestures they do with their eyes, how they're just, it's all in the eyes is what they say when it comes to acting on screen. This was a master class in that, and they should be teaching it in acting classes, just showing how they're using eyes and facial features to convey desire and trepidation and love and even frantic, that kind of puppy love part of things that Lucas is experiencing with Russell Tovey. I also I want to say though, for something that for folks who are watching it for the first time, it takes place in two different time periods.
Yes.
So when you see Lucas with a goatee, that all of that action happens the night of a New Year's Eve.
Right.
When he doesn't have his goatee and he's completely shaved, that is the story of him meeting Russell Tovey's character Andrew and all of the events that happen thereafter.
Right.
So that is a little something that kind of came like, wait, what? And so that just to let folks know that from the outset, it's not necessarily as clear as I would have liked to have been, because there was a moment where I had to pause and go, wait, okay, goatee means present day at a New Year's event, and then the non-goatee, clean shaven, is all of the events leading up to that night.
Right. Which you announced verbally to Gordy and I, because we were like, is this the past or are we in the... So that was one thing that how do you do that? Make it clunky and always have a title card every 5 minutes? But that was a perfect way of doing it. And once you got that code, you were fine.
I also really appreciated in the narrative of Russell Tovey and Lucas and Andrew, the characters, not being able to find a place to meet for a variety of reasons, which you will learn why as it goes throughout the film. And that just to me felt very 90s. And I even and the aughts for myself, I was like, when I was getting to that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Not knowing where you can go, not wanting to have someone come to your house.
Very 70s also, I'll add, from my generation.
It's a generational thing to experience.
Consistent, yeah.
But I do absolutely recommend the film to go and see it. It gives a part of our history that we haven't seen represented on film, so there's value in that. And I think the way that Andrew and Lucas's relationship plays out, it's not what you would expect the ending to be. And I said this in my conversation with Carmen last week. At one point, a character gives out this very guttural scream, and I know that scream. I've wanted to scream that scream, and it was very gratifying and cathartic to have that represented in film. One other just technical thing, there's a sequence with a voiceover and an action sequence where they were tied together, and I wish they hadn't been. Nearer to the end of the film, I wish that the voiceover had been on its own, because there's a lot of really lovely sentiments in there that I had to actually go back and rewatch them again, because it was so lovely, and words that I had wished had been told to me.
Right.
So for me, that was just kind of my own nitpickiness around that particular sequence towards the end of the film. But all in all, Jim, what are you giving your rating for it?
Well, I think it has to be 4.5 stars. I also want to say that there was a great message about allyship and the importance of allyship that I really admired.
Yes, I agree. I am also giving it 4.5 stars. Make your plans to see this one in theaters. Don't wait to see it on streaming. There's going to be a different feel to it when you get that surround sound.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening and or watching today. Up next on WCPT 820 is Choose Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950 Radio, it's the Matt McNeil show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And then at 10 p.m. Central, step into the unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. Top 15 podcast for ghost hunters in the United States. You can stream our show everywhere you get your podcasts, or at youtube.com/@thegailyshow. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.